Are you talking to everybody first? Come here. Bucko. Storm dog. Storm dog. Okay, now you're not gonna do, come here, Bucko. Thank you, Piggy. I know, okay. Whoa. I know. Come on, Piggy. Come here. That's your Bucko. I know. What are you doing? Alright. Are we going? Oh, okay. Why this isn't going. Update. There we go. Feedback. Why this isn't going. There we go. Alright, what's up everybody? I have some things to do and I absolutely hate working on my own stuff, and so I figured I'd do a stream so that I could at least distract myself while I had to do all this. Every once in a while you're supposed to check your fit, tweak it a little bit if need be. My span has gotten just a little bit long, or my hand has shrunk up, one of the two. I might be holding the ball different, doing something different, but the span's gotten a little bit long, and so while a longer span always feels nice, I'm just catching on the way out because the geometry just isn't right. You know, if your thumb isn't coming straight back out of the hole, then you're dragging on one side, and you know, it's one of those things. It's really easy to kind of figure out if you take something and, you know, if your thumb's going straight in and out of the hole, that's fine. But if it's coming out at an angle, then it just doesn't work. So I've backed my fit off a 16th, and it doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it's made all the difference in the world. I drilled a few new balls. The Summit was one of them that I drilled with the little fit tweak, and they recommend checking your fit every 1 to 2 years anyway, because things change. Hands change, you get older, gain weight, lose weight, even just hold the ball different as your game develops, etc. So, I've had a bunch of stuff on the, oh, I don't need to reslug that one. I was just talking about it, and one of the grips in my, I've also tweaked my grip method also. And one of the grips in the Summit, I didn't quite get big enough, so I just need to pop a grip out and buzz it out a little bit. But I've also changed, like I said, my kind of fit on my fingers. I used to use smaller grips and really buzz out the hole to kind of taper it and form fit my fingers. Well, it ends up being time consuming, a little hard to duplicate because it's all feel, or most of it's feel. And it also inadvertently creates a little bit of extra reverse in the fingers too, because I'm, you know, funneling the entire hole out, and so instead of having the hole straight up and down, it kind of does this number. Well, that creates a bunch of extra reverse that I don't really want there, and so I have a new interesting fit method to kind of get me the same idea, but without adding the extra reverse in there. Also, I did decide to order a Hustle Rip and the M&M because I've been throwing stuff a lot like that. I'm not gonna buy stuff just specifically to make a video for it if I'm not actually gonna use the ball after the fact, because it's a bunch of expense and a bunch of time and whatever else for a ball that's just gonna go back in the box and get given away. But I've been using a bunch of stuff in that general strength zone. I've got all of a sudden I'm using my IQ Ruby like constantly, and I've been using the Hype Solid a lot. I've been using the Volt Pearl a lot, which is like a slightly stronger, it's about like a high road. I'm actually going to get my Phase 5 back out because again, that's got that cleaner R2S cover on it. So anyway, I'm going to get into doing this. First thing I am going to do is, most of the time I show everybody the plug mixing and the plug pouring, but I don't often get around to showing everybody the plug cutting and finishing and whatever else. And so I was going to do that. So anywho, like the shirt, yep, no comment. Also, so I'm going to be trying out a couple new whiskeys here. there's a local liquor store that has, every Friday they have big deals on stuff, and so Angel works over there, and so if they have any exceptional deals on stuff, they had a bunch of stuff. With Father's Day being tomorrow, they had a bunch of stuff for Dad, and there was a bottle that she didn't let me get. It was $63 off. The final price was still $150. And we're not even going to talk about the $950 bottle of whatever that was. What was that? The Dalmore. There was only 4 bottles brought into Kansas. So I could have had a $950 bottle of Dalmore. But we bowl, so I definitely don't have $1,000 to spend on a bottle of whiskey. So anyway, the specials that we ended up taking advantage of this week, I got a bottle of Jack Daniel's Bonded. So they take regular Jack Daniel's, and then they put it in select barrels for added depth and character. So I guess what the idea is supposed to be a little bit stronger, a little bit stronger flavor, so to speak. Also got a bottle of Kentucky Owl Wise Man. It's kind of interesting, and I guess they just brought this back. They discontinued the brand or something, and then they just brought it back a couple years ago. The Jack Daniel's bottle was like $15 off. This was $30 off this bottle, so we're gonna give that a try too. Got some whiskey stones. Anyway, go on ahead and ask questions in between here if you would like. So we're going to try the Bonded first. I'm just going to do a little of it because I want to taste. And I have a couple other bottles I haven't had anything out of yet to try out for everybody, so I'm just going to do very, very little sips here so that I can move through a few things. So what I am going to do, like I said first, is going ahead and cut and start finishing a Black Widow Ghost. It's obviously not mine. It's a friend of ours, and I do drill for a couple people. Plus, it gives me some plug stuff to do. In addition, so
you can bring a few of those over here, so you've got a little bit of workspace.
No, I'm fine. Yep, that does taste like Jack, but just a little stronger. That goes there. So, a friend of ours is gifting this to another friend of ours. And so, this one was interesting. I think I did a pretty good job of it. We'll see how this actually turns out. But with this color, it's not silver, but it has a little bit of gold in it. But the problem is that when you put gold or silver pearl in, it's not like the main color. The gold and the gold and silver always ends up being in the swirls, and so the main body, and the swirls end up darker too. So the main body of the plug has to have an overall color in there too. Dang, Bob already. Just want to say thanks, especially for the duo video. After watching James, I pulled the trigger on one for my lefty two-hander. It looks amazing. Yeah, I'm actually. Thanks a bunch for the donation. Cheers. That's another one that I'm going to reslug eventually as soon as I clean the table off here of all this other stuff. I hate reslugging stuff, but it's got to be done. So yeah, I mean the Duo and the Summit are good stuff. They are really good stuff, and I've been really happy with everything that we've put out since since the Infinite and the Cosmos. I don't think I've, something like the Exotic Gem I can't use, and I am going to get my Phase 5 back out because it didn't work for me. It wasn't going to fit at the time, but I think it's because I've been throwing my Volt Pearl and some weaker balls so much and stuff like the Fate. I didn't necessarily like the layout, but I'm throwing it just a little bit different now, so I was going to get it back out and give it a shot. It's definitely in a strength zone that I use quite a bit, and so I'm going to get that back in. I want to get that back in. Let me turn the lights off so you can actually see this stuff. You see a big blur. But anyway, back to the plug coloring thing. This had to have some other type of color in it because I needed the silver in it, of course, because it's got all kinds of silver. I did need a little bit of gold in it, but that's not like a pure silver, and the gold ended up in the swirls and was too pronounced. And this is kind of it's a dirty silver gold. And so what I ended up having to do was I put the very tiniest, and people that mix plug will understand this, I had to put like a quarter drop of Vice Yellow in it to give it that dirty look, but I had to just barely get the drop coming out of the bottle and then touch that to the surface of the plug to get the very tiniest, smallest bit of yellow in there, because the tint or the dye is really, really strong, and if I mixed one up and put like a half drop in, and it just went bright yellow. And even then I put the quarter drop in and I thought it was still too much, but as I let it sit there and it continued to kind of mix, it came out looking like this. Now this looks a little bright on top, but normally it gets darker when you cut it and finish it, so I'm going to go on ahead and do that, and we'll see what it looks like, but I think this is going to be really close. Because it's just a little bit too bright right now, but I think once I cut it down and finish it, it'll be perfect. I got a Storm Crucial Phase I'm trying to repolish the factory. Took it to 1500 using Storm Step 2, but it's not polishing up a lot. Should I water down the Step 2 to get a better shine? Not necessarily. What they do is whenever they polish something with, the old 1500 grit, the new Reactor Gloss, whatever else, they just mirror shine the crap out of it so that it looks good on the shelf. So you're probably not, unless you just go nuts. But yes, adding a little bit of water while you're polishing does help a little bit, so you don't have to keep adding polish and adding polish and adding polish. You can just keep, when it starts gumming up a little bit, just spritz a little bit on the towel, spritz a little bit of water on the towel, lube it back up a little bit, and so that way you don't have to use a ton of polish. But unless you really hammer on it, you're not going to get it as shiny as their machines are able to, so I wouldn't really worry about it. I do like I don't like getting stuff like super mirror shined. The water will help get it shinier though. So we're going to cut this. So because I don't often do this, I thought it was a great opportunity, even though it's not a storm ball. It was a good job on the pour, and sometimes we all know, anybody that's done plug before, that the pour, a good mix and pour on or color match doesn't always mean that it's going to cut and finish nice. The one thing that silver and gold tends to do, especially if you have a bunch of it, is it tends to sink and settle a little bit. And so I played with this a little bit longer before. Normally if I pour it, everything kind of sinks and ends up darker than it pours. Plug generally ends up a lot darker anyway, but I continued to kind of stir this and mess with it while it was, still kind of setting up. So hopefully I kept things mixed a little bit better. Hopefully I won't have that. It looks like I am going to have a little bit of the ring of death around the outside. Hopefully I won't have too much of it, but either way, I think this is going to be hidden well, and I think it's going to look good. Again, the two rules of plug are match it if you can and hide it if you can't. So it's a very artistic thing. It's something that doesn't always come out the way that you intend it to. But the cool thing about art is that sometimes artists just do things and they see what happens, and even if it doesn't come out the way it intends, sometimes that's better than the way that you intended it in the first place. So This whiskey is very good, by the way. It's again, it's Jack Daniel's bonded. It does taste like Jack Daniel's, but it is a little punchier. I like stuff that's really spicy and that really punches you. I don't like, people like Crown Royal or something because it just goes down so smooth, but to me it just doesn't really taste like anything. It's just a little bit of spice and it goes down so quick that it's kind of like, well, you know, I've got to drink a mouthful of this to even get any flavor. And this stuff I can just sip on. I can just put a very little bit on the end of my tongue and just let it sit there, because I like the taste of it. I don't necessarily like drinking as much as you think I might like drinking. I just like the taste of stuff, and the stronger the taste is, especially on the whiskey, I get dehydrated pretty easily, and that's kind of frustrating when I just want to drink something for the taste. I don't want to get really even buzzed or drunk or dehydrated or anything. So the stronger stuff I can drink less of just to get the taste. All right, loud noises. Yeah, so it looks like, despite my best efforts, I am going to have a ring of death. I need to get that down just a little bit further. Now, normally they'll tell you when you're doing plug to not cut it down all the way flush with the ball. Actually, that looks terrible. Rip the dream. Well, I don't know. It always looks like that when you cut it. But anyhow.
Are you drilling most of it back out?
No, well, no. Yeah, I guess I am drilling some of it back out.
I was thinking you just...
Actually, yeah, I am drilling most of it back out. I completely forgot about that.
So it won't be as bad.
Yeah. It's like an 1/8 of an inch or something.
Enough.
So most of the time they'll tell you not to cut it all the way down, because then when you go to finish it, the finishing process because there's a bunch of grain just from cutting it. You can see that there's all that grain or whatever, and to get all that grain down simply by resurfacing, you have to leave it on the machine for a while. But I'm going to shave all the grain down with a bevel knife so that I can just sand it down and, you know, get everything so that I don't have to sand the ball down so far. So if I just take a bevel knife and shave the grain down, I don't have to worry so much about it. It does look brighter now than I think it's going to end up looking, but this is one of the rare cases where it actually got brighter from cutting and finishing than it did pouring. Most of the time you pour it a little bright so that it ends up darker. In this case, it actually cured brighter, which very rarely happens, but it's all coming back out, so lesson learned. So I will just take a bevel knife, and it really, I mean, I'm resurfacing this, so I can do whatever the hell I want to it. Nothing's gonna hurt it. So a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. to, this is another thing that people know. There's a lot of people that just stick it on there without removing the adhesive from the plug dam. And some plugging snobs will use that putty stuff, but that's just stupid. I don't know why you waste all that time with putty when you could just, you know, use a regular foam plug dam, cut it down, and be done with it. This is the problem with plugging like super pearlescent balls though, because it's just not, because like I said, you got to have, this color doesn't allow for any body of the plug, because you're either going to get it too dark, color's not going to match whatever else. And to get this color, and to get it still pearlescent, you've got to not put a whole bunch of color in there. So the main base has to be, the gold and silver, but it sinks if the main base is gold and silver. You're always going to have this ring of death. I think it will look a little bit better than this once we're actually done with it, but still, I mean, that just, it looks worse on camera than it actually is, but thankfully I'm drilling most of it back out, so. Not putting this one on Instagram. Hashtag cover up.
It's like the shots you delete when you're filming.
Yeah. But everybody has this happen, so it's not like it's terribly uncommon. So all I'm going to do is just take the edge of the bevel knife, shave it down so it's nice and even, and you might think that there's going to end up, well, if you shave it down, then there's going to be a flat spot. Not by the time I end up resurfacing it. I'm just shaving this down right now to prevent having to resurface it so much. Realistically, I'm just shaving this grain down from the cut. So I'm not really taking much off the ball at all. And this is one that if I was still in a shop, I would redo this. I wouldn't send this out the door to anybody. Unless, of course, again, I'm going to be cutting most of this, or I'm going to be drilling most of this back out. But this is one that's just going to be really tough to succeed on anyway. Because you can see, I mean, the center, if you look at this, like the center is actually brighter than the ball is, but you get this dark circle around there, and it's because, again, the silver lives in the swirls. It doesn't really live in the body of the plug. And so it's super, super difficult to get a very bright pearlescent ball like this. Now, like something like this Volt Pearl, that'd be super easy to do, but because you can see, again, you can see all these dark swirls or whatever. And so if that ends up being, if the middle of the plug ends up looking like that, and the swirls, and then the swirls and whatever else are darker, that's going to fit right in with the ball. That'd be perfect. But since this one is just so obnoxiously bright, it's just super difficult to stay away from this, because anything that you see that's very, very bright pearl, I've got several examples here again. The Cosmos is a very, very bright greenish gold or whatever, but there's a big difference between like the body area here, and then when you find some swirls or some streaks or whatever, it goes from very bright to very dark. And so that's just the nature of the beast when you're dealing with very highly pearlescent, you know, finished balls. And so I am just not sure. I would actually have to consult with other plug gods and see, you know, when it comes to plugging something like this, how you get away from the circle of death while still making the plug shimmer and pop. Because if I use some white or something in the background, sure, I can you know, beef the body of the plug up, but at the same time, I'm also washing it out, and so I'm not going to get as much of the silvery shimmer. So trying to preserve the shimmer while also, you know, beefing the body of it up so that you don't see, you know, the dark streaks or whatever. But again, thankfully, most of this is getting drilled back out, so lesson learned, just don't ever plug a Black Widow Ghost again. Let's even up on the side here, around on the edges of where I just very lightly scrape the knife around to kind of blend the edges so I don't have any deep cuts or anything in there. So again, I didn't really like shave this or scrape it down. I'm just getting rid of that grain so I don't have to leave it on the resurfacing machine for too much longer. So I'm going to go down there and plop it on that and get that started. Plus it'll freshen the cover back up. These things get dirty easy. So we're gonna have and actually the cover might be, just from use and from dirt and whatever, the cover might be a little dingy too. So once we get it all resurfaced and prettied up, this might actually look a little bit better than it does right now. It's still gonna have that ring, but it might actually look a little better. We'll see. Plug water's getting a little scummy too, so I need to do something about that. All right. Got that going. All right, so now the rest of this stuff, again, if you're just joining us, welcome. I've adjusted my fit a little bit. There's something different I'm doing with my fingers, and if the rip, I've got the Hustle Rip and the Hustle M&M on the way, and if those get here in time, I will drill those. We will see if they actually show up while I'm streaming or not. But
set out for delivery, but no, it's just depending on the FedEx
yeah,
guy.
they're normally a little bit earlier on. Uh-oh, we got another. Dang. William Durfee, thanks. Thanks tons.
Ooh.
Much appreciated.
Mr. Patreon got you.
Yeah. Yep. Appreciate it. It is very helpful. Hopefully
Thanks for the alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah, they paid for the bottle of Wise Man here. I'm about to open that. I haven't checked the comments here. I probably need to. Let me catch up on the Oh, okay. Not crazy. What surface do you usually throw your promotions with? Normally, I just throw them out of the box until they lane shine and then leave them there because that's where I think they're happiest. Because with surface on them, you've got to have just a metric ton of oil to give them a little bit of shape. Otherwise, they're a little too early and kind of soft, lazy. If you let them shine up, though, that cover is so diggy that you're still going to get traction, but letting it lane shine, it's still not going to get very sharp. And so it's still stable, it's still smooth, it's still controllable, predictable, but it adds a little bit of shape at the same time. And so a lane shine promotion is exactly the sweet spot for it. I don't touch the surface, and so when I do need to freshen them up, or when I'm taking them to a tournament or something else, I will go on ahead and I'll hit them with a pad, but then for regular use, I just let them shine back up. I never do anything else to them. What do you think about someone who drills out the mass bias on a ball? The mass bias, drilling out the mass bias doesn't really matter because it's just a marker on there. And in some cases, Brunswick used to have a pin that they'd actually insert in there, and so you want to make sure that you drill the entire thing out. Most of the rest of them, they just have a stamp, and so you drill it out, whatever, it doesn't really matter. I do recommend drilling out the pin if you're close around the pin, like I do on my ASIMs. I will just drill the pin straight out, and I like the number that it kind of ends up at too. It kind of perfectly puts the ring finger in the pin, and it's a 4 3/4 inch pin to pap. So
Didn't you say that like drilling partially into the pin or too close, it's a higher chance of cracking?
Yeah, if you drill, what Angel just said is
I've got the mic in front of me.
okay. So yeah, if you're close to the pin, just drill it out because the 1/4 inch different, the 1/4 inch, or some cases, it depends. It really takes a 1/2 inch of change to notice the difference. Like the difference.
Actually, I think that's on Storm's website for like the drilling. In order to like warranty the ball, it actually says that you can't have a drilling within a certain distance.
Yeah, because it's a weak spot on the ball because they actually drill it out and then they just fill it back up, or they actually just fill the spot back up. The pin is just the hole that's left over from the rod that holds the core in place while they're pouring the rest of the ball around it. And so they remove the pin, and then they, that used to just be a thing, but it became a drilling tool once cores got strong enough that, you know, where the pin went mattered. But yeah, if you're anywhere within an inch of the pin, that's getting into the danger zone. And some people, if you drill a bunch of stuff, it really doesn't matter that much, but it can contribute to cracking. But if you're close, it takes a 1/2 inch any direction. Like, you're not going to notice the difference between a 4 1/2 inch pin and a 4 3/4 inch pin. You will notice the difference between a 4 1/2 and a 5 inch pin. So, which ball do you expect to like more between the Rip and the M&M? Well, I've heard that the Rip is basically a Hustle Ink, which that's what it looks like, and so I'm expecting to like that one quite a bit. I have heard from some people that the M&M is better, but then I watched Casey Murphy's video, and the M&M definitely is not better, for Casey at least. And I hope it acts like a Hustle Wine because I wanted one of those and didn't get one. I probably will like the Rip better because it's got that kind of round, that super round look to it. The M&M looks like it's a little tumbly, and me and tumbly don't necessarily get along, but I wanted to try it anyway.
We have a ice cream.
No.
Okay.
That's one of those when Luis sent me a ball or two. They had that slug and a couple of grips still in there, so
Okay.
that's one of those random ones from
Okay. Very good.
whenever.
Okay. Thank you.
What did you change on your fit? So, whether it be to hand changes, sometimes they recommend to get your fit changed or looked at, maybe not changed, but at least looked at every 1 to 2 years, because you get older, you gain weight, you lose weight, whatever else, your fit can change. And so I've been noticing that for whatever reason, about a year and a half ago, I lengthened the span a little bit because I felt like I was losing it at the bottom. It felt like my whole hand was coming out at the same time. I wasn't catching it at the bottom. And so I lengthened it just a little bit and it felt better. Now here recently, whether I'm throwing it different, whether my hand has changed, whatever else, I'm catching. I'm just catching on the way out, because the thumb, like if your thumb, and this whole, I need to change the tape too. If your thumb's just going straight, in and out, yeah, damn it, I'm just gonna take this tape out. This is already, even span issues aside, I can't even show what I'm trying to talk about. You know, if your thumb's just going straight in and straight out, it should be able to just go, yeah, I got a little bit of vacuum going on here. Hand's a little swollen up or something. Or this thumb slug's a little bit tacky. Every once in a while you might actually take a sanding pad to it and just freshen it up, because your hand oils can get down in there, change your tape out or whatever else, because just sometimes there is such a thing as fitting too well. But if if your thumb is just going straight in and straight back out, it should be able to come right out. However, if you put your hand in there and the span's a little too long, you're going to roll over the front side, and then all of a sudden your thumb's not going straight out, so it's hitting the front side, which is forcing your knuckle against the back of the hole. And so I kept catching coming out. And so for whatever reason, my span has just gotten a little bit too long now. And so on something like the Summit that I went back to, and I had some old balls actually that I've gotten back into using that had the original span, I guess, or my shorter span. I need to change the...
I don't know how well it would be on camera or how well you can explain it, but could you maybe get one that is the correct span and one that's not the correct span, and basically like show a fit?
Yeah, well, this one does have the correct span. That one has the incorrect span.
Okay. Because there's some that have like commented before about, well, I don't know about my span. I don't know if I need to check my fit. So maybe just show how.
Yeah. So I mean, basically and again, I'm just dropping a 16th, which isn't a whole lot. And there's some people that'll swear you can't feel a 16th anyway. And I'm like, well, I can feel a 32nd. So Princess and the Pea. So anyway, I mean, this fit looks pretty good. You can see my knuckles are straining just a little bit. I mean, this is a pretty good kind of comfortable, relaxed fit. I got a little bit of room to move. I got a little bit of a gap under here. So it's not like it's that bad of a fit. Again, it's just, I go to get my hand out of it and it just wants to lock up a little bit. And so I've noticed that I've been dead handing it to get it off my hand, but I've either been dumping it or grabbing it. And so I went back to an older fit, which is what I did for my Summit. And again, it's not a whole lot different. This ring finger is just a little snug, so that's what I've got this one out to change. But this one is, you can already see it's different. It's just a little bit, on the span. It still fits, it still fits, feels comfortable. I've still got, again, it's just a little bit of a difference. But this actually comes out, where as soon as I go to put my hand back in something that's just a hair bit longer, then all of a sudden it's just wanting it, and it's just a little bit. So I can get it out if I really pull my hand back and make it straighter, but actually with a comfortable fit, it just wants to lock up getting out of there. And so again, I go back to this and we're fine. So again, when somebody says, even if it's just a little, again, a 16th, oh, you can't feel that, it doesn't matter. Well, it does actually, as you can see here. So yeah, this one I just need to, again, the ring finger grip is just a little snug, so I need to buzz that out. Take the grip out, buzz it out, and pop it back in there. The rest of these need to be re-slugged. And I hate doing my own stuff. And again, turning on a stream was an excuse to actually do it, because otherwise I would have fought it. So anyhow, I think our Black Widow Ghost is almost done. When drilling a 1 1/4 inch thumb slug, what size bit would you use as a pilot? If you have the extra bits, I would probably use something that you don't use a whole lot, I don't have the full amount of bits, so I would use something like an 1 1/16 bit, because you're just never ever going to use that bit for anything. It's very rarely a thumb size for anybody. They don't make thumb slugs that small. They make slugs in 1 1/8 up to 1.5 inches. But the 1 1/16 bit you'll never use for anything else. Now, because I don't use I have an 1 1/8 bit, but I got that specifically for piloting because I don't use that bit for, we don't have 1 1/8 slugs. So, so the ball just clicked off. So actually, I'm glad I moved this. Well, I'm going to be over there. Just give me a second. I'm going to be over there. Need a towel. I'm going to go ahead and finish this sucker up. Yeah, it still looks terrible. Actually, the ball does look remarkably brighter, though, which just makes the ring of death look even worse. And now what really kind of pisses me off is that the center of the plug looks great now. Like the center of it matches the ball perfectly. It's just that frickin' ring. And you can see other dark spots just in the natural pour of the ball. If there are dark spots there, and even the bottom where it sat and some of the stuff, some of the pigment collected. But you can see these other darker streaks in it. It's just hard to pour a ball this color and not end up with dark streaks or plug it. That's about, I would say that's about the best I can do, and it's still gonna end up with a frickin', it's still gonna end up with a ring around it, but again, most of that's coming back out. I'll use this to plug Jayhawk Diamond Dust pads again. This is 1,000 grit. And you can see the ball is pretty chalky, but look how smooth it is. There's no lines or marks or anything else. There's no, it's not like cutting it to get to 1,000. It's a very, very fine, smooth, even. I think that you would see the peaks and valleys if you use the surface scanner. The peaks and valleys would be a lot closer together. You wouldn't see just, oh, this is 1,000 grit because we scratched the crap out of it. Look at how nice and smooth, consistent this surface is with still being at 1,000 grit. The pads are expensive. What are you doing?
I'm just moving over here so you get some more room.
I don't need any more room. This is going on the,
Oh.
yeah, this is just going on here.
Okay.
So all I'm going to do now to just polish it back up a little bit is some step 2. It's virtually the same thing as Brunswick Crown Compound and whatever else. So I'm just going to use some step 2. I also have some step 3, but I just like the step 2 better. Doesn't take a whole lot, quarter-sized amount. Work it into the towel, and then I'm going to use water to really doesn't take a whole lot. And then, like I said, somebody was asking about this earlier. Use water to kind of lube it up a little bit. That way you don't have to use so much polish. And also, you can go straight from the better quality 1,000 pad you have. I can go straight from 1,000 to shiny and have it look good instead of it looking polished but with a bunch of scratches in it. Like, this is going to look like an amazing surface once I get done with it. And it really doesn't take a whole lot of elbow grease. You just got to make sure that you keep water on it. And again, I don't want it, ball reaction is not good with like a hard polish on it. Then it gets really squirrely in the oil and screams too much on the dry. So this, I'm going to flip it over. I am going to use a little bit more stuff for this other side. Now once both sides are polished, because now I'm going to get, there's, this is only about a third of the ball sits in this cup, and so you get an extra couple inches here that's already been polished. So all I'm going to do is get the top side of this now, so that once the entire ball has been polished, I'm going to flip it a few more times, more just to kind of get a blend on it. I thought about getting some polishing wheels for the resurfacing machine, but this does, my technique or kind of my process here gets them just fine.
You can't let Tommy's gift go to waste anyways.
Yeah. All right, so now I'm just going to flip it around and just use water from now, because you can see it already it's already got a nice little shine on it now.
Question, is plug similar density to original ball material? Wondering after a full plug and drill, will the ball still perform similar to a non-plug ball?
It really depends on how strong the core is, because you're going to get a very similar weight ball, but of course once you drill holes into the core, you change the shape of the core, because you can't exactly just put that core material back without putting everything back. So it is going to act differently, but the thing is that if there's not a very big, like somebody asked me a question the other day about plugging a pitch black or something, or a purple hammer, how many times can it be plugged and re-drilled? They don't have very strong cores in the first place, and so there's not a whole lot of dynamics to get out of drilling them differently. So if you plug them a bunch of times, the core is not very strong anyway, so there's very little to take advantage of from specific layouts, and there's also very little to mess up when you plug them a bunch. So the stronger the core, now something like an asymmetric ball, like the Black Widow Ghost, by the time you get 2 or 3 layouts in it, depending on where the fingers are, you might end up with some wonky ball reaction. Generally, it's not that bad though. It really depends on where the holes have been drilled. That's really what it depends on the most.
What about like the cover stock differences, like how much plug versus actual cover stock?
No, that doesn't really matter.
So it's just totally on the core?
Yeah, it's pretty much on the, because again, you have giant labels like this, or like the, labels are going to cause issues, and so just a little bit of plug isn't going to, even if the ball's rolling over plug, it's not really that big of a deal.
Unless it's like, say, a flat spot or something?
Huh?
Unless it's like, say, a flat spot
or
something?
well, if it's if that's different if they don't finish it right. All right. Now the process for this is just as important as a smooth surface to work with, and so that's why I really like those diamond dust pads. They are built for use on a resurfacing machine. You can use them by hand, but it's best to get one of the machine blocks, one of the resurfacing machine blocks that you put the pad on, so that you can mount it to something, because they're very thin, very hard to hang on to by hand. So now what we have here is a nice, pretty, brand new looking Black Widow Ghost with a very horrific looking plug job. But this is all pretty, and it's quite a bit brighter now. And again, you can see that if that ring wasn't there, like the center of the plug looks identical to the ball, but it's just getting it in there without having that ring around the outside. And some people say, well, you let it sit for longer before you pour it. Again, I kept stirring it. I poured it and then I kept stirring it around, hoping that it wouldn't do this. However, again, most of it's coming back out. It's just with pearlescent stuff that you can't add a bunch of extra color into, it's just gonna come out looking like that. So unfortunately, we have a ring of death. But the center, yeah, if we didn't have that ring of death, it'd be amazing. So yeah, the actual plug does, but this whole ring of death thing, with highly pearlized balls that you've got a bunch of gold and silver in, you're gonna get a ring of some sort. It's just gonna happen. So unfortunately, that happened. I am drilling most of it back out, and the ball itself now looks amazing. So once again, kudos to the very high quality of the pads. You don't see any scratch marks or anything.
Derek Shannon's in here and he said it
Yeah.
matches the ball.
Yeah. So yeah, you don't see any scratch marks or anything. I mean, this is just a nice, perfect, smooth, amazing surface. So again, kudos to the Jayhawk Diamond Dust pads for giving me something nice to start with. When I used to do this with Abralon pads and start with the 1000s, I'd have to go to a 2000 pad to get rid of the scratches. So, all right, we're done with that. So I'm gonna pour myself another little nip and we will get to the fun part. I'm gonna start knocking these out because this is just, unfortunately. So what I'm gonna do with these two, I'm going to drill them, put the slug back in, cut them off, take them back off, put them to the side. I can one-shot them just by eyeballing them, but it's a whole lot. Well, I guess I'll just cut them down and then mark them and go from there. I can eyeball the 1/16 of an inch, but I don't want to mess with it, because if it does end up a little bit too long, then it's just going to be annoying. So I do also want to give a plug to Scarred Prints for the ball cups. So he's on Facebook, and he's got a whole website and everything, and we've had him in the Breakdown Pair page a couple times. I used to use these, and you've seen a lot of these. You'll see a lot of these at demos. The plastic ball cups, just the regular whatever. But for whatever reason, they're smooth, but around the edges where the ball sits, they get all scratched up. And then when you go to move the ball around, they just scratch the living crap out of the ball. And so I'd put a ball down and I'd move it around while I'm laying it out or whatever, and it just scratches the ever-living crap out of the ball. However, the 3D printed ball cups from Scarred Prints,
And the spinners.
yeah, and the spinners, I'll get those.
Okay.
But yeah, these are 3D printed, and you can get them on his website. Again, Scarred Prints, SKARD. You can find him on Facebook, and he's got all
James just
kinds of
put it
links
in
and
the
stuff. So yeah, James
comments.
put it he just put it in the comments.
It's on a square page.
Come on. Why is this not showing it? Are you on the, Can you get it to show that comment that it says it's blocking for some reason?
Oh.
Oh, is it not there? I don't know. There's a comment held for review and it's not letting me show it, but there's nothing wrong with it.
Well, James is in here. He might have already fixed it, and it's just not.
It says it's held for review and it won't let me show it, but it's not
That's fine.
anything bad. So yeah, these are great. They're very lightweight. They're very durable, and they don't scratch your stuff up. Plus, they have so I've gone to using these exclusively. Plus, he's got the roller cups. Very helpful for laying a ball out or cleaning, whatever else. So these are very cool, very heavy duty. So check those out if you're interested. He's got some Father's Day deals, I think, if I remember right. So, all right, we're gonna start knocking some of these out. I'm just gonna leave them on I don't want to take them off the press and put it back on the press and whatever else. So.
Quick question before you go crazy. On the spare ball, were you going to drill the bigger slug to get rid of that cracking?
Maybe. It's not that big of a deal. And all the,
Well, I know. I just, since
Yeah.
you're re-slugging, you could.
they all those chip out around things.
Okay.
So I opened the other bottle, the Wise Man. I had the Jack Daniel's Bonded earlier. Got this. This was $30 a bottle off. I have not had this before. It's Kentucky Owl, the Wise Man whiskey. And this is rye whiskey. I like rye quite a bit because it's really punchy. Really punchy, really spicy. I'm just gonna have a little bit because I want to try some other stuff. Let me see, what's the story on this? The artisanal traditions and heritage of Charles Deadman and the Kentucky Owl brand have been preserved to ensure that the outstanding blah, blah, blah. Marketing nonsense. Nothing about what it tastes like. Just American Kentucky straight rye whiskey. So, that's pretty good. And actually, that's a little weird because I thought rye whiskey at first when I had it was gonna remind me of rye bread, and I'm not a fan of rye bread really. This does kind of taste a little bit like rye bread, but this is good. And this is definitely a different flavor than anything else I've got in the cabinet, so.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And it's spicy without being like, when you go to swallow it, it's smooth, so it hits the way I want it to hit, and then it... All right, so another tip, something else that I found, I can't remember who I found it from, but instead of using grease pencils, because bowling grease pencils are terrible for some reason.
Matt in our Discord.
Matt Sedan? Okay.
The North Carolina, actually, James bowled with him when he was there.
So this is a again, it's the same thing. It just uses grease pencil lead, but this is a welding tool that they use when they're welding, and the actual grease pencil part of it is a whole lot sturdier than bowling grease pencils, which just kind of crumble and you go to sharpen them and they fall apart and whatever else. But these pencils are a whole lot sturdier, and they come with all kinds of different colors. So I can use. So if you have a yellow ball, most grease pencils are yellow. If you have a yellow ball, you can put a red one or you can put a black one in there or whatever. And then, green, blue, whatever else. And they're refillable, a whole lot cheaper than regular grease pencils once you've got the investment in. But I like this quite a bit better so far. So I'm gonna get my lines on here so they can get it semi-lined up. I don't like re-slugging stuff because it's annoying to have to get everything lined up, but I do like re-slugging stuff at the same time because once you go to put the replacement slug in, it just glides right in. Sometimes the fit on a fresh slug is a little tight, and that can get annoying. Everybody that's ever drilled a bowling ball with a slug in it has had a slug get stuck halfway down, and then you got to cut the top off of it, and you got to line it back up, cut the slug back out, and then try to drive a new one. That's not anything. Got to get my UC3 back in action. So I haven't thrown this one for a minute. Plus, I never got around to the Zen U versus the UC3. I do have more Summit videos coming. I did film for quite a few things, so I've got Summit versus Axiom. I've got Summit versus Duo coming. Work's been busy, and we've been doing stuff, and so we've just been busy. So I haven't had time to get anything done. I also had a good friend get inducted into the State Hall of Fame last night, and so he had me present for him, and I spent some time writing that speech, and just haven't had any time to write bowling videos. That is actually really good, and it tastes like rye bread, and I don't like rye bread, but I like that.
I
Which
don't
is
know
weird.
that dip that Melissa makes that she uses. No, that's pumpernickel bread.
Yeah,
That's not right.
it's
Never mind.
it's kind of similar. It's
Well,
got
it
that
just-
same kind of almost
Yeah.
burnt taste to it. This does kind of taste like rye bread, but I like it. But I hate vinegar, but I love kombucha, which doesn't make any sense because it smells and pretty well tastes like you're drinking vinegar, but I like it. So anyway, I'll stop blathering and get to slugging. So what I'm going to do here, because I'm only taking a 16th off, and there's a lot of times where you can see I've got a small enough thumb that I'm going to be able to move the hole a 16th up without having to plug or anything. I'm just going to drill out the slug, put a new one in there, remeasure, and just reposition the thumb inside of the slug. It's just going to be a little bit further up. This is why I like using slugs, because if I would have had to do this, now I could have just, now the thing is with interchangeables, is that I could just drill one slug and be done with everything. However, I would have had to adjust drilling going forward. I would have either had to drill a separate slug that's centered for all the new things that I drill, or I would have had to measure it differently. I like measuring full span. I would have had to probably go from grip to cut and get a different measurement to adjust to account for the hole not being centered in the slug. I think this is just, but I don't have any reason to mess with interchangeables. I did them before just for the novelty of them when they first came out. I have a round hole with just a little bit of bevel, so there's no reason whatsoever for me to use interchangeables and mess with all the hassle and having them break and losing slugs and whatever else. So, and I've mentioned before, I use inch and a quarter slugs. I've mentioned before that when you drill the original hole, you want to kind of go slow so that the different densities, like the cover's one density and the outer core is a different density, and then the inner core is even different density. And so if you drill too fast, the different densities can divert the bit and make it hard to get the slug in there. When you're re-slugging something, you want to punch it out fairly quickly because you're never going to get it lined up exactly perfectly. Again, I'm going to get it close, but the thumb slug is softer than the rest of the ball. And so if you drill faster, the ball will divert the bit into the slug. So even if it's not perfectly lined up, just by going a little bit faster with the speed, not the speed of the drill bit, the speed of, lowering it into the ball or drilling into the ball, if you go a little bit faster with that, it tends to keep it centered better or, divert it the right direction. So I'm going to start slow and see. I'm going to start slow and just make sure that I have it generally lined up well. And then once I see that I'm close, then I'll throw the hammer down. And there is probably going to be a little sliver of slug left in there. That happens every time, but it doesn't really make any difference. And it's going to be down towards closer to the middle of the hole where it's glued at anyway. Oh, whoops. Might want to get the pitch right. That'd probably help. I don't think drilling faster is not going to help that. And it's not like I've never done that before. Everybody that's ever worked in a pro shop has forgotten to set the pitches or change the pitches back when they've gone to cut the slug off. All right, let's see what we got here. Perfect. Gotta charge the light. Not like I really need it to see at the moment, but helps. That one about as good as it can possibly go. So you see that there's still just a little bit of it left over, but this is also a high road like ball because the cover's so thick. For those that don't remember the volts were one of the balls that was made by Global at the San Antonio plant when Storm owned Global but had not yet combined the brands together. And so this is virtually the high, I mean, it's a very similar high road numbers. It's 257, 048 or 050 or something like that. 257, if I misspoke on that. So 257, 045-ish to 050-ish. So high RG.
Correct you.
Okay.
James will correct you.
Oh, yeah. I don't see any more comments. So this is a high road like ball. The cover's a little stronger because S70 is the R2S equivalent, and this is S72, so this is more like R2X. So it shapes like a high road, but it's just it's kind of virtually. It shapes like a high road, but it's in between high road and high road pearl response. It's fairly smooth and buttery, so I've found it very useful because it just gets down the lane and then it eases in, and on high friction lanes it's just perfect because I can get it down the lane, but then it doesn't jerk or overreact.
256.047.
Yeah, so it's virtually the same thing. I don't know why my comments aren't.
Oh, here, hand it to me then.
No, I'll restart it.
That's what I was gonna do. I was just gonna have you hand it to me so you could keep going.
Nah, I'm good.
Okay.
There we go. If a ball comes at 2K or 3K grit, do you still bring it down to 1K in step 2? Generally, yes. So surface doesn't really work for me. A lot of lefties use surface because it blends things out, but I roll the ball heavier. And so anything with surface on it tends to dig too early for me, and that creates a different kind of over-under. Normally, the lefties have over-under because there's not a whole lot of track friction, so the ball either goes too long or is too sharp. However, I have more issues if I have sanded stuff, because then everything's just too early, because I don't have like a typical lefty fluffer game. Plus, I made the mention in the Summit review that whenever you shine a cover up, you get a better idea how strong it actually is, because everything will hook with surface on it. But once you shine something up, the stronger covers will still hook plus finish. The weaker covers don't have near the dig through the oil. So if you really want to get a good idea how strong a cover stock actually is, shine it up. But at the same time, you've got to look for the difference, because when you shine stuff up, it's naturally going to get more responsive too. And you know, something like a phase 5, for example, is going to be sharper than a summit, that doesn't mean that it necessarily hooks more. But if you know where to look, then that'll give you a whole lot better idea. All right, another trick that I mentioned, so I'm going to take the bottom of this. It's just a straight cylinder all the way up, so the edges are sharp. When I go to put the glue down in here, if I just leave it as is, it makes it more difficult to get down in the hole. Plus, it just scrapes all the glue off the side of the hole, ends up with a puddle at the bottom, and then it just gets the tip of the drill bit all nasty, because then it's got shaved, the glue and the shavings get all mixed up down at the bottom of the hole, and then it ends up all over the tip of the drill bit. So I'm going to smooth the bottom edge of the slug. So now I don't know if you can see that or not, but I've rounded the edge off, and then I recreated kind of the vent slit there. So this should be able to just, you know, slide right down in there. Glue bottle, glue bottle, glue bottle. Back in here. And normally I say not to glue in the cover stock because it makes the cover stock brittle. However, in this case, it's kind of hard not to. And the slug fits so well that the glue is more for lubrication than for anything, but I don't want to actually put a lubricant down in there so that the slug won't come back out. Still a pretty tight fit. All right, so to make sure that I get this, I can go ahead and use a little trick so that I don't have to cut the slug down and then measure and then move it back and whatever else. So I did it on the Ruby and it came out fine, so I'm just gonna screw it. I'm just gonna utilize the trick. So I'm going to go on ahead, this slug's sticking out just a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and punch it where it originally is. So I've got the edge of my hole here, and I'm just going to measure a 1/16 up and then make a mark and drill it then. So 16th is right there. It's highly scientific, by the way. That is right on the edge of that. It's a 16th. And this will measure out perfect once I get it off the press. So. Where is that? Past the okay, so it's right there. I can see that better. Perfect. All right. Also, to verify that I'm in the right spot, because I can't measure the span because I can, but it's the ruler is lifted off the edge there. But what I can do is I made the first cut, and then I've got our second cut there, so I can measure the difference between the first cut and the second cut and make sure that that little section right there on the back is a 16th. Trickery. Mostly laziness, but also, and that is perfect. So we're gonna drill it and then we'll move it, cut it, and be done. And my router bit is in just the perfect stage of sharpness to where it's still sharp enough where it's cutting stuff down, but it's not sharp enough that it's just cutting straight to the ball. Watch as I cut straight to the ball now. But it's giving me just a little bit of leeway to get it perfectly flush with the ball without cutting the ball. And if it does cut the ball, it doesn't really matter. I wouldn't send it out of the shop looking like that, but, you know, aesthetics matter, but they don't. And I'm gonna bevel them all at the same time. There's no point in stopping and messing with it and stopping and messing with it. I just want to keep plowing through the re-slugging. But that's what that looks like. Just taking a 16th off the span. You see I just have repositioned the hole in the slug a little bit, moved it just a little bit closer up. And so this should measure out to what do I got here? 4.5 plus, or 4 and 19, 30, or whatever the crap it is. 17, 4 and 17, 30 seconds. It's hard to keep track of the 30 seconds, so that's why I most of the time say plus. So it's supposed to be 4.5 plus, my ring finger span. Or this is 4 and 9/16 actually on this side. So yep, that's 4 and 9/16, and then this should be 4 and 17, 30 seconds. So yeah, we're good. I will actually show you that. It's hard to see on here. But what's up, Clint? But I don't know How well you're going to be able to see the ruler. And I don't have the line there, but there's 4 and the big hash mark there is the half, so it's 4 and 9/16, and this is 4 and 17/32 there. And I actually do measure to a 32nd. You can see there, believe it or not. So it does matter, and my spans are virtually identical. It makes it really easy to fresh drills, or to do fresh drills, because I just mark one line across for my fingers, and then the difference in the finger grip size accounts for that 32nd in difference in span. So, on to the next one. We still have not yet received the rip and the M&M. Normally they're earlier on Saturday than they are. Most of the time on the weekdays they don't get here until like 4, but I thought that we might be able to.
Yeah, maybe they had all those Father's Day deliveries.
Yep.
I'm gonna hope that
Yep.
if the FedEx is delayed because there's that many Father's Day presents going out, I'm okay with this. Did you have some water or something too?
No, I just got a little bit of this little catch.
The black lung.
I think I've got the black lung, Pop.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm going to take this tape out of here. Don't like drilling tape out. It can be done, it's just annoying. I'm going to get a different flavor of the whiskey.
Can you fit all that in that container?
No, I need to, well, what I probably need to do is pick out a few of these. I've got some of them that are really low that I just need to.
We'll start with those then.
I just need to finish. There's a few of them I just need to finish off.
Okay. Yeah, do those then.
Maybe I'll. There's one that I really don't want to finish off, but I need to. Fill up all these.
Well, move it into the house then.
No.
We can put it up with the.
Let me see. It's either my Glenmore. Yeah, that's. I got just. I'll do that one.
Which one do you not want to finish off?
Well, my special Lagavulin one.
Okay.
That's got 2 drinks left in it.
Well, I'm just going to move it in here so there's
All right, now here, move this honey one in there too, because that even.
Okay, got it.
Apologies while I shift around whiskey bottles. I've been drinking less lately, so when she usually finds a deal for me every week, but I'm not getting through. I would hope I'm not getting through a whiskey bottle a week, but I'm getting through it a lot slower than I used to. So that stuff was very good. Here's a special bottle that she found me. The Glenmore NG. This was Quinta Rubin, so it was 14 years aged in bourbon and port casks. So it's a single malt Scotch, but in bourbon and port casks, and so it's smoky, but it's also a little fruity, which is weird, but I've been nursing this bottle for far too long, and I'm just going to go ahead and pour one out. Unfortunately, get every last drop out of this sucker.
Just turn it upside down like you do the ketchup bottle again.
Yeah, well, the cork will absorb it all.
Oh.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can just suck on the cork with your tongue.
Yeah. Yeah, I can just put the cork in my mouth like like my own little binky. Yeah, I'll just save
but,
the.
let's just forget I said that.
No, this is a great idea. No, you've really stumbled across something.
No.
Binkies for guys.
Oh, God.
Just turn the whiskey bottle upside down
I'm so
and
sorry to all the wives out there.
suck on the Scotch corks.
If it gets you to shut up, maybe that's.
Yeah.
I'll
See, this
consider
this is interesting because most of the time Scotch doesn't have that deep ruby. I mean, you can see this is like a Again, this is freaking sweet. Those are whiskey stones in there, by the way. But see my fingerprints all over the glass. But this is it's a that natural kind of whiskey color, but it's got kind of a deep ruby color into it that's really sweet looking. So, God, it tastes fantastic too. Let me see here. Yeah, I can't wait to get your insight on Hustle Rip as I'm trying to decide between that and the Ruby for what ball I'm getting this summer. I'm probably going to favor the Rip a little bit more because the cover core matchup is a little bit better. I've never really gotten along with R2S Pearl IQs. It's just the core ends up being too early and slow, and then the cover is not quite strong enough to it wants to be, the ball itself wants to be smooth and controllable, but the cover wants to make it long and flippy, and so for me it's always seemed to fight itself. The Ruby is the best iteration so far by a long shot, I feel. And I mean, I only missed the pocket. We bowl 4 games for our scratch league on Thursdays, and I have been throwing it better, but I only missed the pocket like 3 times in 4 games. And my strike percent, or my first ball average was 9.47, but I only shot like 865 or 870 or something for the 4 games, because it was just wrap 7, high flush 10, drive by 8. I had several 6 pins. It feels like the biggest trap ball ever, but at the same time, I'm just never ever going to miss the pocket with it. And if I would have thrown it halfway decent at Ozarks and Springfield a couple weekends ago, I already did make money in brackets at team, and I threw it terrible in doubles and singles. But if I would have actually been throwing it decent that weekend, especially, I'll take, if I can just go shoot 650 in team every year at Ozarks, that'll make me tons and tons of bracket money. Tons of bracket money. All right, well, okay, so I forgot to do that again. All right, I'm going to start hammering these out. So if y'all have questions, keep sending the questions in.
I'll keep watching. So.
Otherwise, I'm going to start making quicker work of these so that we can get through some stuff, and I might even have some fingers. I've had some fingers that actually have gotten a little too big, so I'm going to pitch plug some, and I've got a different finger grip technique that I was going to talk to you about. So I'm going to get to hammering these out, and then we will talk. somebody did, now that I remember this, ADD catching back up, somebody did ask if I stashed any reality checks, and I do have 2 blanks downstairs that we got just in the nick of time, because I really, really like this ball a lot. This is a very unique ball that's kind of infinite physics-like, but it's got more of a phase 2 shape. So it's long and quick. It is a little forward, but it's not so early that it being forward creates a problem, but it's still strong at the same time. It's a perfect blend of a ball that has a lot of, it's very, very user-friendly because it hooks a certain amount, or it hooks a decent amount. It's got a certain amount of pop, and it's consistent enough by itself that it will both bail you out of some bad shots, but also controllable enough to where you can adjust your hand positions and make it shape differently down lane. It's a perfect balance between being a tool and being user-friendly.
Ilpad actually liked it as his altar replacement. For what he didn't care for in the altar, he liked.
Yeah, the altered was a little too strong early and forward. And so the reality check's a longer and sharper version that still is kind of forward, but is a little archy, that doesn't necessarily roll out. Oh God, I love scotch. Scotchy scotch. So, once again, I'm going to cheat here. And so where line is that? It's right on that darker line there. It's already on the top. Definitely wanted to get this back in the rotation, so I really like what it does. I can play straight with it, I can get deep with it and bend it. It's remarkably versatile. I can do all kinds of things with this ball, and I really, really like it. On the 16th. You're the nice little dog. You're the nice. I know, you're the nice. Perfect. Perfect.
Do you think they'll keep the reality core?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I don't know what would be coming next. I think the realities are still popular enough that they'll continue putting realities out, but I am not sure. Dumber things have happened. They'll probably keep making them overseas.
I did see one hit the approved list that really looked overseas, the name and everything.
Mm-hmm. All right, that one's done. Now I gotta make sure.
Do you think
This
any
one,
cores
'cause
are done? Like, do you think
Huh?
do you think any cores are done that we
Nah.
won't see again?
Now, if I remember right, this is my Attention Black Pearl. I really, really like this ball. If I remember right, it's got Extreme Tracks Pearl on it, which is the Cosmos cover. But basically this core is pretty well identical to the UC2 or the Rubicon core from a numbers perspective, so it's mildly...
Hyper response.
Oh yeah, hyper response. What did he tell me that? I think he... What was... Hyper response is NEX, because Extreme Tracks is REX. So hyper response, yeah, so this is basically NEX Pearl, which is, we had it on the Axiom Pearl. So it's strong but blendy. So it's basically a stronger UC2, and I really, really like it. I really love this core, and again, it's like this is almost like a stronger version of the UC3 also. Because it does have that really blendy motion to it. It is a little longer and sharper than the UC3, but it's still got that similar type of roll to it, and so I definitely need to get this one back in my bag as well.
Is there a phase 2 or high road equivalent overseas as far as time on the market? I thought they didn't.
Oh
like
no,
having what everyone
overseas nothing lives very long. They make very small batches, 500,000, 1,500 balls that disappear very quickly because their market's even crazier than ours is as far as it's disrespectful or poor form to see somebody else using a ball and then go buy one yourself because you like the way that it looked for them. They consider that, again, it's not necessarily disrespectful. It's just, I don't know, like you're copying them or trying to, it's not honorable, I guess you'd say, to try to, use something that they're using. So typically they have very small batches of stuff. It sells out, it moves very quickly. People are always buying lots of stuff over there. And so that's why the overseas market moves so much more quickly. So there's nothing that will ever stick around overseas. They'll get it, it'll sell out, and then it'll be gone quickly. There it was. Holy crap. There's been a frickin'... keep feeling something tickling my neck, and I keep reaching over there for a spider web or a hair or something. I never found it.
That was my hair one.
All right. I actually like having a little bit of the old slug left in there because you can see that one, it just kind of dropped like almost halfway down in there. And the only thing that was going to be holding it in is glue. But if there is still a little bit of the old slug left in there, it just tightens it up towards the bottom. So you still get it in there, but it's still got that firm, you know, that firm anchor, I guess you'd say. Perfect. 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 All right. Maestles, where you at? Oh, what are you doing, sweetie? Go see. Did you get your treat? You dingo? You nice? What are you doing? You wanna go downstairs? Take it to your crate downstairs, sweetie. Did you get it? You get your treat? You weird little weirdo, what are you doing?
You got it? Yeah, did you get it? See where she's going.
Oh, she's just on the other side of your car there. It's just away from the noise and
Okay.
It's just a little cubby over there.
Just making sure she didn't get into something she wasn't supposed to.
No, she's just hanging out over there.
Okay.
Away from the noise of the press.
Okay.
Alright, spare ball.
Bigger slug, or are you gonna just see what
I'm
happens?
just gonna see if it explodes or not.
Oh, okay. I don't have a spare one.
It might just... These plastic spare balls, always... I mean, you see the kind of Sean Rash famously had one that's it's just all eaten out around the top of it. This
It's a
one I
little,
haven't
like,
had for
excessive.
very long. I've had it for, I don't know, 3-4 months. Maybe.
Yeah.
I drilled it before Nationals.
Yeah,
So-
I want to say it was a couple weeks before Nationals.
March.
So, yeah.
So it's been 3 months.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the plastic ones just chip out around the thumb. That's just how they work. Mistle, you dumbass. So it is. It already has started to chip out a little bit around the fingers, so or the thumb. So. We shall see. If I start to drill and it just explodes on me, I've got a bigger... I've got an 1 3/8 slug I can drop in there if I need to. It's fine. Of course, I don't know. I'll roll with it. I'll just do this. Huh? Could always put a pink one in it. It'd be really obnoxious. I'll just go ahead and put the bigger slug in there. I don't want to deal with that. Because I might have to end up re-slugging it in a couple weeks if it cracks out further. So, a little bit of a chip. See right there. So if I just go up a bit size, I can get rid of that. Or I can go up a slug size. So, I'll go up to the 1 3/8. The 1 3/8 slugs fit better than the 1.25" do for whatever reason. Like even with this should, yeah, that's actually not too bad. But I always like to do a second pass just to, you know, get that. Oops. To get it just that little bit extra out. To ask Russ if they have 1.257 bits, because the 1.25" bits, it's 1.25 decimal, but they have 1.257 bits, which is just the tiniest bit bigger than the 1.25". So if your slugs are getting stuck or you're having a hard time getting them in, that'll open them up just a hair bit more so that they get in there easier.
Interesting. Didn't even know that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'm surprised you didn't ask for that when we were on.
Well, it's worked pretty well. I've only gotten a few stuck.
Oh, okay.
This is going to be a little bit of a tight fit. Tighter fit than usual. Well, maybe just at the top. We'll see. Man, every once in a while, if you miss that hand transfer on the crank, you get in trouble. And that's when it locks up on you.
What do we have as 27?
Huh?
What do we in grips? Who's 27?
That's just the biggest size. Got a whole bag of 27s?
Yeah.
I don't know.
When we were
Might have been your
down-
dad, actually. Yeah, your dad uses 27 and
3.
no, 27 and 25, which are,
Oh. No, James is 3.
yeah.
No.
So yeah, I think your dad used 27s.
Okay, well, probably not anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for everybody that's still hanging out. I know that this is exceedingly boring, but you can also ask any kind of questions that you want to ask. Want to talk bowling balls or?
Yeah, put the iPad over there for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully the rip and the M&M will show up.
I don't know what's going on. I'm
Just hoping to be able to
it's not here.
drill those while we were at it. Perfect. this one, the plastic balls are a lot harder, so they're a whole lot easier to gouge when you shave slugs down. Yeah, I just clipped the outside edge of it a little bit, but that's okay. Just looks like a swirl on the ball. I always hated doing slugs and plastic balls because it's just so difficult to get it flush without getting into the ball at all, because it just cuts so much easier. With the covers on the reactive stuff being softer, it gives a little bit easier. That's just a 64th too short, but that's okay. It's just a spare ball. And actually, I mean, it would, at this point for me right now, it would be better if everything did, if I was to miss one way or the other, it would be better if it was short. So that being a little short is not going to be a bad thing at all. Let's reslug the reslug on the UC3, because I got to get this ball back in the rotation. Of course, it's been really easy at League the last couple weeks because I've only got 4 or 5. Again, the Hype Solid was, I think, the last ball I drilled with the previous span before I lengthened it. And then I was able to get back into my Phase G. I did have to reslug the Ruby, but I did that because I figured I'd use it in, I was going to be using it at Ozarks, and I did use it the entire time. Threw it terrible the entire time, so it didn't matter what ball I was using, but that ball felt like it fit the condition the best. My favorite Floridiot. When are you going to be reviewing the M&M and the Rip? Hopefully they're showing up today. I was mentioning something earlier. Hi, Shauna. I was mentioning something earlier that they should be here today. I wasn't going to, they're not some of the balls that I get auto shipped for the reviews. And so if I don't actually think I'm going to use the ball, I'm not going to buy them just to review them and put them back in a box. But I think that I'm actually going to be using these quite a bit, and so I wasn't going to get them at first, and so I didn't order them, and I thought, well, as much as I've been throwing all this other stuff, my Ruby, and I really like my camo, I've just been using stuff in that general strength zone, and so I thought, well...
Yeah, somebody asked earlier if the camo was in the regular rotation, which I don't think that one...
No, not anymore. I used it so much that it's kind of... It just needed to drill something new. Oh, this is the 1/8 bit. It's not going to work.
Empty door someplace.
So, I will be, I mean, they're going to get here today at some point, unless FedEx pulls a FedEx. So I will be, as long as they show up today, I'm going to drill them, and I'll be filming for them tomorrow morning. Again, fingers crossed, if FedEx doesn't FedEx.
Okay.
Now, if anybody works for FedEx, I understand delays and everything, and I know that, you know, shipping and whatever else is crazy, but FedEx is notorious for overestimating when stuff is going to show up. You know, don't give me a, oh, it's going to be here on this day and then constantly delay it. If it's just give me a more conservative estimate.
Well, I think every
It just looks better.
that they say your order has shipped expected, I think I get 4 or 5 updates
Yeah.
Oh, it's now been delayed. Okay, now it's been arrive where we expected. Now it's been delayed again.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Yep. Luis says he loves his rip. He also likes the M&M quite a bit. Do you run a pro shop or do you just have the coolest garage ever? I used to run a pro shop, and I drill for a couple friends that don't patronize the local shops. So.
Yeah, they were driving, what was it, 2.5 hours?
Mm-hmm.
And now he's moving to North Dakota or something.
Who's that?
The Austin, right?
Oh, Austin Donovan. Yeah.
Yeah, but now so they were driving to him, wherever that was.
Yeah. Hut, sure.
Yeah. And then I put the box up. Dang it!
But yeah, so when I got out of the pro shop, there for a while I was still using the pro shop's equipment, but it was a real hassle driving over there all the time. And I had to drill while somebody else was in the shop.
With customers.
So I would always go in there, and he'd always be busy, and it was a hassle. Number one, gas, timing, whatever else, and then when I was thinking I wasn't going to be with the pro shop that much longer, then I would have had to pay for stuff, and I wouldn't have been able to drill it, and so I just got my own drill press. So drilled 50 some odd balls a year. Saves so much time, and in the long run, it's going to save a bunch of money too eventually. So. Now I've gotten away typically from the different colored or the bright colored slugs in the balls, but this one for some reason just works with it. So I'm going to put an orange one back in there. And actually, the funny thing is that because this was drilled to the original span, so the hole was back this direction, but by centering the 1 1/4 bit, I can just go on ahead and put this slug in there, drill straight down, and I'm back at square one. So I don't have to do any measuring or any kind of anything with this one. It's just going to be put the slug in and drill the hole out, and I'll be right back to where I had started from, which is a heckin' conveniency. Oh. This has already been, this is going to be the third slug that goes in this ball, so this sucker ought to slip right in. Yup. Perfect. Should now be just right back where I was to begin with. Ow. Yep-a-roo. Alright. Mowing right along here.
I have Johnny's sheet down to make sure.
James Wick. Yeah. Yeah, North Dakota was stationed up there, too windy. Yeah, the drill press, I've got a, yeah, it's a Jayhawk tri-oval, so it's the top of the line. That's what I was used to using, and I looked at all the other models, because I didn't necessarily need to spend, you know, $10,000 on a drill press, but it's the only kind I've used, and I kept looking at the other stuff, and it's like, well, it doesn't have this, and it doesn't have this, and I thought, you know what, if I get something simpler, I'm going to end up being mad long past having it paid off and whatever. So, you know, I thought just going ahead and get what you want, and I mean it's gonna last me for decades. So. Now I'm getting into the heavy hitters. These are the ones that I absolutely have to have back in the bag. Fate is next. This is just one of the best balls that Storm's put out in a long time, and that's saying something, because I'm a huge fan of, I mean, virtually everything that they put out in the last year is just, it really feels like, instead of just putting stuff, there for a while it seemed like they were in panic mode after COVID, and then after the stuff got banned, it felt like they were in panic mode, just throwing stuff out there. But man, the Infinite was amazing, the Cosmos was amazing, the Reality Check is amazing. The Wolverine Dark Moss kind of got overlooked a little bit. I think the Phase 5, I haven't seen a whole lot, which is really weird, because the Phase 4 was terrible. Everybody got excited about it, and then it was terrible. And the Phase 5 really does react nice, and that's why I'm getting it back out, because I can see the use or the utility for it. The Zen U's been amazing. I shot 650 with that in singles at Nationals, which could have been 720 really easily. I had 720 on the board with 4 frames to go, and then I went wrap 7 spare, and then I just lost both lanes at the same time. Greek Church, and then like 3-7 or something like that. So I went open, 9th and 10th to finish with 650. But yeah, I've been using the Zen U a ton. Really like that one. I wish I could use my Absolute is on the list to look at some more. It's just a little too sharp for me, but I do really like the way it reacts. The Revenant's amazing. I've used that ball so much, I've actually put it through a couple of surface refreshes. I put it on the machine a couple times and brought it back. I've done that once to the Fate. Uh-oh.
Doggies?
There's the Woofies. You good to go check it out? Oh no, the mailman's across the street.
Okay, well.
The dogs are on we get the FedEx truck so often that they know what the trucks sound like, and so they go bonkers.
Yeah.
And then what did we have? The exotic gem I just absolutely can't throw, but it's been popular with the pros. What's the other ball that came out with the exotic? I can't remember.
I'm gonna take my microphone so we can hear it.
That's what it sounds like when we get the FedEx truck. So I can't remember what came out with, or did the exotic? I think the exotic might have come out by itself. What came after? Well, the Fate, I guess, came out at the same time as the Zen U, and of course I was already talking about this. This is one of the best balls that they've made in a long time. Amazing, ridiculously, crazy good ball. For some reason, I can't remember what just the last run of stuff. What were the last couple after the exotic? What were the last 2 that just came out? I can't even remember.
Was the ruby in that batch?
Yeah, the ruby and something else.
I've got my sheet.
Yeah, I was talking about the ruby because the ruby I use that a bunch.
Ruby DNA Duo Summit.
The DNA. That's the other one. The TNT was in there too. Okay.
Yep.
The Duo I need to reslug too because I haven't thrown it as much as I would like.
In reverse order: Summit, Duo, DNA, IQ Ruby, TNT, Eternity, Revenant, Absolute, then the Exotic Gem.
The Eternity has been the only one for me that sucked. But
Operator error.
Angels shot 760 or 770 with hers 3 or 4 times now.
Actually, I think it was the next, right after it got drilled.
Yeah, so...
Then the rest has been operator error for me.
So, I was talking about this the other day. What is something SPI is really missing if you had to guess? The thing is that I think since they bumped the hardness a little bit to keep stuff away from USB-C or to make them happy, I think that the weaker covers, so like R2S, a lot of people have mentioned that the Zen now just isn't as good as it used to be, and part of that's the reactor gloss thing. You've got to get that crap off of there and reset the surface. But I think that everybody will notice that we've gotten a lot of stronger covers here recently. We do have something like an Absolute to replace a UC3, RSTX2, stuff like that, but now all the Roto stuff is microtracks. So we've got big covers. Roto Grip right now does not have anything between the Hyped and the Duo. And that's between the Hype Solid and the Duo is a freaking massive, it's a canyon. It's an absolute crater. So they need something in there again like an idle pearl or like a Rubicon UC2, whatever, that's what they need. Storm now has Storm I think has a nice balance because they have R3S on the Revenant, which looks pretty good. They just discontinued the Night Road. I thought that was a good stopgap too. But they have the High Road, they have the Revenant in there, they have the Phase 5, which is a bigger core, weaker cover, but now they have the Summit, we still got the IQ, we got the IQ Tour and Ruby in there. And like I said, we got the Fate, which is kind of that perfect step up from the Revenant. I think Storm is very, very well balanced. I think if anything, Storm needs a big chonky ball that's kind of tanky like a gem. The DNA is interesting because it's so smooth. But I think that Storm's got a really nice balance. They probably are going to want to replace the Infinite now because there's not, I mean, we've got DNA Absolute. There's not, I mean, that's a crazy, crazy strong cover and then all the way down to a weak cover in the Absolute. So they probably got something else coming in the Premier line. As far as Global just doesn't have much of anything. Like they just discontinued a bunch of their stuff. They've got the Eternity and the Reality. They discontinued the Check, the Dark Moss. They still have the Zen. They got rid of the Zen Soul, I believe. No Zen Master, no Zen anything. So they've got like Global has like 6 balls in their lineup. That's it. So Global needs a bunch of help, but I think that from what I've been hearing, Bowl Expo is supposed to be fairly big for Global, and at some point the burner hybrid has to come out because when they talked about 4K or moving to Reactogloss in frickin' September, they leaked the burner hybrid and we haven't seen it. So yeah. I would imagine that's coming. I've heard some scuttlebutt about another Ordnance C4 like type of ball. Which would be really good because that's kind of like a little bit weaker duo. That'd be a pretty good shape for them in there. What's the difference in cover stock strength when comparing the Zen U and UC3? I think it's the same cover. I really do. It's just the big thing in core strength because the Zen U acts like a solid version. If I could put both those covers on the same core, they would be more on the resiny side than the urethane side, but there's enough urethane in there. There's enough of a urethane-y feel to make it work that direction. The Zen U was perfect at Nationals on doubles and singles. I couldn't ask for a better look. That's a ridiculously difficult pattern. And by the end of, probably up until the 9th and 10th frame of singles, I had 3 or 4 boards to work with. So it was just a dream matchup, dream look with that ball. And the UC3, actually I found it better on house shots than really anything else. Or if I can use it with shine on it, it's been great. So, they need a OBT NV Tour counter. I said, yeah, and House Hack said, yeah, I saw a box of the RSTX4 and it's Microtrax Pearl again, so I would say that we're probably not getting that because then we'd have a duo Microtrax Pearl, got the Exotic Gem Microtrax Pearl, then we would have the X4 Microtrax Pearl with minimal differences to the cores. Now, the RSTX4 as Microtrax might be ridiculous because the Exotic and the Duo have really low RGs. The RG on the X4 is 253, so that might be sexy. Those 3 balls might all work together with that same cover because on the Duo, it's quite a bit longer and sharper than Microtrax normally is. And I think I was talking about this with somebody else. I think that while the bump in hardness, making everything just a smidge harder, has hurt the weaker covers, it's really, really helped out the bigger covers because we typically, again, this is the first time that we've had Microtrax Pearl stateside was on the Exotic Gem. It looks really good on that ball. It looks really good on the Duo. We've had NRG Pearl, which is Microtrax NRG. It's the same thing. It's just they use a little bit different loads Roto typically goes a little bit stronger with their covers to kind of differentiate so they're not right on top of each other. But we had NRG Pearl on the IQ Tornado Pearl, and then we've gone to REX. Storm's using REX a bunch, which is a blend of R2S and NEX, which NEX is an evolution of NRG, which is a little cleaner and sharper. But typically, NRG Pearl, NRG / Microtrax Pearl was really early, chuggy, tanky. Something like the original Phase is kind of what a lot of that stuff acted like, and nobody wants a Pearl ball that's, when they think Pearl, they're not thinking chuggy, tanky, smooth, whatever else. But now that they've bumped the hardness up a little bit, it's put that cover, I think, right in the sweet spot where it's still really strong, really stable, really controllable, but it's longer and sharper now. And so I think we're going to see tons of Microtrax and NRG because I think those covers are really in a sweet spot now with what they did with the hardness there. And so it could have been one of those kind of blessing in disguise type of things. So we might see R3S on more things now because it looks so good on the Revenant and the Spectre, and especially with bumping the hardness up a little bit, that the R3S might become the new R2S, basically the new kind of clean flippy cover. So I really, I've bashed plenty of things and I've talked negatively about a bunch of things, but the whole point of that is so that when something is actually legitimate, then you know what's up. And so I really do like the last year, 95% of the releases I've liked 90% of them, and I think 95 of them are quality.
Just the others you just can't use.
Yeah,
It's not that they're bad, it's just you can't.
And that's the thing is I don't think that we've put out a dud since the Infinite and the Cosmos came out. I don't think we've had something that, because even the TNT, I think, is like a two-handers. That's like the best two-hander ball I've almost ever seen, period. Because it's so heavy rolling, but it's almost like
hyped hybrid's actually probably right there with it too.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is I want another hyped hybrid if we can snag one.
Okay.
I imagine the Pearl and the hybrid are on their way out here fairly soon.
Okay.
No, the Cosmos is definitely not a dud. That's one of the next ones on. That's one of my. The Cosmos is one of my. I think it's in my top 5 all time now. I've got a few more of those stashed up. I still have the original one that I've been using a lot. I didn't like it for the first like 3 months. I didn't like it.
I think that's been almost that with every single idol. Like, you end up loving it, but you almost like, especially the Idol Pearl. But every Icon core, I think you've had to throw it like 30 games before you love it.
Yeah, the original was okay for a little while. I never got along with the Helios, but I think that was the layout more than anything. I think if I'd have kept using it, it would have been okay. But the Cosmos is IQ Tornado Pearl plus. It's a better version of the Helios. It's the closest thing that we had to the original Idol since the original Idol. The Cosmos is just way, way, way too good. Way too good. I can use it shiny on a bunch of stuff. I can sand it down and use it on tough stuff. It's one of the most versatile balls. It runs really well with the Fate because the Fate's a little longer, sharper. They have the same cover basically. Extreme Tracks versus REX. It's virtually the same cover. The Roto version's a little stronger, of course, like I was just talking about. But the Cosmos is amazing. So, yeah, Infinite Cosmos. And that's the thing. Since that's what I meant is that everything that's come out since the Infinite and Cosmos released, including the Infinite and the Cosmos, everything that's come out since then has been just absolute nails. And even if I don't particularly like that ball, I think that ball has an application. The TNT, once we got figured out what was going on with the surfaces of all this stuff, I thought that I thought the Night Road was terrible. I thought the TNT was terrible, but it just turns out that whatever's going on with the surfaces, you just reset the surfaces and all of a sudden they're amazing balls. So I really do, and I really hope I'm going to get to throw this Summit more. It's crazy, crazy strong, but my gosh, I love the way it rolls. and the Duo, hopefully the same. And I am tweaking my, and actually it's helping a little bit because I'm tweaking my my release a little bit. Something clicked again when we were bowling on Thursday nights or Thursday night, and I threw it really good the last game, and
Now it's time for you to fix me again.
yeah. But if I can keep doing this, then it's going to put a whole bunch of other stuff back in the bag. I'm not just going to have to throw weak stuff.
Okay, get busy.
So yeah, I'm going to be able to throw
Because if the other two get here, you're gonna have to drill them.
throw the
Finish
Summit.
fixing
Yeah,
stuff.
I got 3 more balls that I want to reslug right at the very moment. So I'm going to work on that.
Yes.
The Phase 5 and the Cosmos are getting reslugged, and then hopefully by then the M&M and the Rip will be here. Just
Well,
waiting
I'm
on
not gonna let
FedEx.
you drill them until, and so everybody's gonna be mad at me.
We do what we need to do. You just need to put the other mic on Storm on it. Put his collar on, put the other mic on him, and so when everybody will hear when the FedEx truck gets here.
I'll just go put this other mic in the living room.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it in there.
So if you hear the doggy doorbells go off, you'll know. Now, once again, for those of you who are just joining, I just finished off. Oh, crap. Oh, yeah, a couple more drops. Heck yeah.
Do not suck on a cork.
Yeah, Binkies for men. You get a Scotch bottle, turn it upside down, saturate the cork. Amazing.
No!
This is a special bottle of Glenmorangie that she got me. The Quinta Rubin. It's 14 years. It's a single malt Scotch, Highland single malt Scotch whiskey, aged for 14 years in bourbon and port casks. So it's Scotch. Glenmorangie is a little smoother. I like the super crazy peaty Scotches, but you can see that super nice kind of ruby. I mean, it looks like whiskey, but it's got that super nice kind of ruby color to it. It's just amazing, and it's Scotch, but with a little bit of a fruity kick. So, drinking it out of my Glenlivet cup. So anyway, we're gonna get back to work here. Man, how many corks is Luke gonna save to put in his bags for tournaments? I need to save my Nick Offerman Lagavulin.
Oh my god.
That Lagavulin's about the best stuff I've ever had. I'm still a Lafroig guy.
If you could pick one discontinued ball to bring back, which would it be?
Well, I'm not gonna. So I was just talking. A bunch of these just got discontinued, so that'd be the easiest.
Probably your promotion.
Probably the promotion. That's a little too easy though. Something else. Because the ones that just got discontinued to be a little too easy, a little too fair game. I'm
I
actually.
probably think you go old school and even bring back like the depth charge or the.
It'd have to be something probably the Prodigy. It was so it had the Nova cover, R2X hybrid. It might have been Pearl. I would probably bring back the Prodigy, because that was actually like an early Idol Cosmos type of look. The Prodigy was ridiculous. The Prodigy was somewhere between the Cosmos and the Fate. Why was the RST X2 discontinued? That's just what happens.
ASIMs, I think like 18 months is about
Yep.
the max.
Yeah, I do need to put some new whiskey stones in here. The whiskey stones do really well at keeping it cool without diluting it. Now, some people say if you put a little bit of water in there, you get some of the extra flavors of it. But I like having I like super sipping stuff. I like just putting a little bit on my tongue and letting it work, so I don't like diluting it at all. And the whiskey stones do keep it, again, they keep it cool without diluting it, of course, but they keep it just the right, they don't get it like too cold. So yes. Why was the X2 discontinued? It just, stuff like that happens. They put out so much stuff and people get interested in other stuff, and it's really funny when people say, well, my high road's dying, what should I get to replace it? And I'm like, well, they still make the high road. It's like, yeah, but I want something different. And it's kind of like, well, you know, people just want fresh. And the X2, even if it's a good ball, it's like, well, yeah, I want the X2, but I want something different. And people are mad when they won't buy it while it's available, but then it gets discontinued. They're mad at that, and it doesn't really make any sense. But it's just sales numbers went down, and people are interested in the new stuff, and they want to start pushing the new stuff because they, you know, produced a bunch of it. And the Absolute is not quite an X2 replacement. It rolls a little heavier. It's a little earlier. But the Absolute is such a good ball that sometimes you put something out, and there's other stuff that can't quite compete with it. The Absolute, for the space that it's in, it controls frickin' everything. So they need to leave the Absolute alone and stay away from everything else. And while it's annoying how much they've promoted it, if you go look on their channel, there's like 15 Absolute videos, and it's completely obnoxious, but it's a legit, crazy, ridiculously good ball. Hi, Bucko. You waiting for FedEx? You waiting for FedEx, Bucko? What do you think, Bucko? You just have to lay right there. See, I'm getting ready to slug something. I'm going to be standing there. What are you doing, Bucko? The Bucko. Yeah, you should have the Death Star Ice Cube. I need a bigger glass, and I need a lot more whiskey in there, because I did that for the show Monday night, and it melts so fast that it just dilutes the crap out of it. And so I've got to put a bunch of whiskey in there, and I don't really want to do that. But anyway, back to work.
Thank you.
I need from the Wallowitz.
I'll find me a sound effect now.
Yep. Back to work.
Find me an actual whip.
Yeah, I've needed this. I've needed the Fate back in the bag for a while now. And like I said, it's good. You know, the span adjustment has gotten me back into some older stuff that I hadn't gotten around to re-slugging yet. And my Phase G is probably the most important ball that I kind of let slide there, that I've got back in the bag. I got the Hype Solid back in the bag that I really like throwing quite a bit. So I've been using the crowd. I've pretty well exclusively been using the Ruby since I went to Ozarks 3 weeks ago. That or the Hype Solid, and it's pretty well been the Ruby. And even though it sometimes does not carry all the pins, it's really hard to miss the pocket with, and it's a comfortable, it's rolly, it's round, it's a really comfortable reaction. So actually I think that despite not getting all the pins down, it's really helped start to loosen me back up, because I have predictable, controllable ball motion instead of trying to fight the stronger stuff. Sorry, Bucko. You gotta move. And so and especially, you know, now that everything fitting properly again is definitely gonna help there too. You know, the other thing, it's been hard to, with the stuff just kind of sticking when I'm letting go of it, it's a little extra hard to, you know, have stronger stuff that you kind of have to flag to get off your hand, so to speak. So it's just been the perfect ball to kind of help me make sure that yes, this span is what I need to, this span's what I need to go back to, and this general strength of ball. I've probably started using too strong of stuff, stronger than I need to. So getting back in that general strength of ball and kind of confirming that the fit adjustment that I made was the correct direction. The Ruby's really helped out quite a bit with that. So, all right, well, crap, I did it again. But once you've done this enough times, you make sure that you check everything before you before you get the drill bit moving. Double check everything's locked down, because I've done that before. I haven't tightened some handle or something, and it just started going and the ball starts wobbling. That's panic mode. So always double check everything, look at the screen. How's the Absolute compared to the Reality as far as being a goat ball? The Absolute actually acts like a Pearl Reality. The shot shapes are very, very similar. The Absolute acts a lot like the Eternity, just longer and sharper. The cover formula in the Absolute is quite a bit weaker than the Eternity and Reality covers. But as far as being a goat ball for its level of strength or where it's at, it's there. It's one that should stick around for a while. Even though I don't get a whole lot of use out of it because it is just too sharp for me to use the vast majority of the time. And the shape isn't necessarily something that my game favors. I think that generally speaking, it's a great ball. Because it really does, it's an asymmetric ball that doesn't lock up. It will be somewhat forward, but it doesn't lock up and roll out. It's forward enough that it gives you the utility between you can make it continuous or you can make it go forward if you want it to. People I know are saying that the Summit could possibly replace a Phase 2 and make it obsolete, possibly discontinued. I don't think so. The Phase 2 is still unique. I think it's still, again, it kind of fits that one size fits all. It's kind of perfectly in that zone where it can be sharp enough. It can be smooth enough, it can be strong enough, it can be weak enough. It just is kind of, it's a zen solid, basically, is something that just kind of a one size fits all in that perfect versatility zone. What indicates too strong or too sharp, leaving splits? Everything turns sideways on the left side to begin with. That's why you see Butters bending a purple hammer. You know, if you watch righties throwing a purple hammer, it's just kind of right down the side, or it just kind of eases in. Butters can get a purple hammer to turn sideways from third arrow. And if you watch anybody else throw it, like Packy, it looks like, the purple hammer looks like a reactive ball when lefties throw it. Packy or Kevin Williams. Even the pitch black for Jesper, I know he's got a big rev rate, but just because, I mean, the pitch black doesn't do a whole lot for Belmo. It's just nice and smooth and even, and half the time it's too smooth. Jesper can get it to walk right down there and then bank. So just being too strong or too sharp, it's just, I can't execute a comfortable shot. I have to fling it to get it down the lane, and then it still wants to check mark and go sideways. And so that's why I've been using a lot of stuff. Again, the Ruby is slow enough, the Fate's slow enough, the Cosmos is slow enough. So smoother balls end up being quite sharp on the left side, and you don't really want anything on the left. It's like, okay, the Absolute, if I moved into third or fourth arrow, sure, I could use it, but because we don't have any track friction, it's a whole lot. The wet plays wetter and the dry plays drier, and so there's no reason to open up your angles if you don't have to, and especially because then that puts me in the heads of the righties. And so, you know, I'm trying to get through 3, 4, 5 feet of righty head burn, and then a bunch of skid, and then jackknifing. And so that's why, I mean, the joke is always, oh, lefties just fluff it down second arrow. Well, we're kind of trapped there, honestly. So it's a funny joke for people that don't understand, but we're kind of trapped at second arrow because the righties, the rev rates have gotten higher, they play deeper, so they're always at fourth arrow in our heads, and we've got so much over under anyway that we want to try to trap it, keep everything in front of us. And so that's just what makes the Absolute it's a little too clean of a cover. It's a very strong core, and so it just ends up being too much ball that forces me out of the zone that I really need to be playing in. And so I use different types of, that's why I've got stuff like, if you look at the majority of what I use, the Volt Pearl is long and fairly smooth. This one's got a stronger, the Attention Black Pearl's got a stronger cover and a stronger core, but it does kind of it is fairly smooth. It's kind of long and blendy, but it gives me a little bit more chunk. This one's kind of a medium strength. The Fate's kind of a medium strength symmetric core, and it is fairly smooth and rounded. The Cosmos is a little stronger, but it's also fairly smooth. The Summit is really strong, but it's also very controllable and smooth. The UC3, of course, it's that urethane blend, so it's going to be rolly. It's going to be strong from a roll perspective, but it's also fairly smooth. The Reality Check is sharper, but it's also somewhat directional too. So if I get into angle issues with the smoother stuff, and I do have to move inside, it's clean enough to where it will get down the lane, but the cover's also strong enough that it'll blend some of that over-under that we have. It's also fairly easy through the fronts, and so it's going to ignore a little bit more early burn. So that's where the Reality Check is where the Absolute might also fit in. It's just that generally speaking, I don't have enough track friction over the Absolute's a little bit too weak, so while it will get through the fronts, it doesn't blend the wet dry or the oil and the dry enough for me to be able to use it very often unless there's a lot of friction on the lane or the condition is just generally dry. So that's why I use this ball, because it's a good combination of the Absolute, but a stronger cover to both get through head friction and then blend everything down lane while still being sharp enough at the same time to make the corner. So, hope you're doing well. Greetings from NYC. Irish Pogie is in the chat. Heck yeah. Do you think that there would be a ball that would replace the gem or be a lot stronger than it? No, the gem's pretty much the benchmark for Chonkosaurus Rex. I mean, that's the big. It's strong, it's early, it's diggy, it's rolly, it's also somewhat dynamic. I think it's probably the best heavy oil ball, true heavy oil ball on the market right now. They'd have to get crazy chonky to get past that. So, all right, I think I'm ready to go here. Bango, bango, bongo. Yeah, I missed the promotion. I should have gotten one and not listened to everyone that said it was bad. Yup. There's nothing else to say but just yup. People just generally don't understand ball motion, and so if anything doesn't go 60 feet and turn sideways, they think it doesn't hook or it's bad or something. But it's kind of funny that all the stuff that people revere or think of like the GOATs of all time are all smooth.
Well, it's saying it's 5%, so it's, but I don't know what's going on.
Oh, this probably slipped. Yeah, this isn't holding on there. Did it pop back up?
Yeah, it did.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it just wasn't held up there very well. It's kind of slipping.
Still not.
Yeah, I know, but it's charging now, so I'd just leave it be. Well, we might lose the stream here in a minute. My phone has not been charging. So we'll see.
It's got the charge thing on it now.
Yeah. We'll see how long it lasts. Oh, I already put the glue in there, so I gotta go. Middle of that.
Well, if the stream dies, we'll charge the phone and we'll start it back up if the other balls get here maybe.
Yeah, that's probably the yeah, we're going out a little bit later, but depending on when the Rip and the M&M get here, because I was going to talk to everybody about my my new grip installation method. Yeah, the problem is that we've got, so I have to have the mic plugged in to the port on the phone, so I've got a QI charger that's on the back of the phone that's in the phone stand, but the fit is not great, and so the QI charger slid down, and so it wasn't centered in the right place to be charging the phone. So it just, I moved it enough that it slipped out of position to be charging the phone, so it stopped charging.
Yeah, so it dropped